Welcome to GasEd. Today we will be discussing how to build a profitable, high-value AI system in a short build window, covering scoping, rapid prototyping, integrations, and delivering an outcome a small business will actually pay for.
Okay, let's dive right into this explainer by looking at a genuinely fascinating business case study. We're talking about a highly custom AI workflow that was built in just 3 hours, and it sold for exactly $1,650. Now, I know to a lot of people, charging over $1,500 for just a few hours of work sounds absolutely crazy. But as we're going to see today, when you stop selling your time and start selling high-leverage business outcomes, well, the math makes perfect sense to the client.
We are going to deconstruct this whole successful project step by step. First, scoping the AI solution. 2, designing the system architecture. 3, sub-workflows for stylized AI. 4, identifying business bottlenecks. And finally, selling outcomes, not templates. Let's kick things off with Section 1, scoping the AI solution. Our client here was a rapidly growing business owner who desperately wanted an executive assistant. Why? Because they needed to stop their constant context switching. You know the feeling, right? Jumping constantly between high-level strategy and those low-level administrative tasks. It was completely draining their focus and honestly, slowing down the whole company's growth. But here is where most amateur builders completely miss the mark. They try to build this all-knowing, omnipotent AI assistant right out of the gate. Rather than attempting to automate an entire executive role at once, which is, let's face it, a massive, complex, and highly risky project, the brilliant move here was simply asking the client, where would you offload work first? That single question immediately isolated their chaotic email inbox as the primary target. It narrowed the scope down to something totally achievable, highly testable, and most importantly, incredibly valuable. You really can't boil the ocean. You just have to solve the first constraint.
Moving right along to Section 2, designing the system architecture.
To actually address that specific inbox constraint, the technical solution was deliberately split into some highly efficient parts. This wasn't just a messy web of nodes, it was thoughtfully, purposefully structured. This clean architecture allowed the client to basically chat with their inbox manager directly via Slack. That was the main interface. So they could just type naturally, asking for, say, emails from last week or requesting to send a quick message to a specific person. And then, working quietly behind the scenes, the system seamlessly utilized Gmail to filter and search, and it used Google Contacts to route everything perfectly. It would pull precise email addresses without the client ever having to even open their actual email app. It literally removed all the friction. The really elegant part is how the system combined two totally distinct approaches. On one hand, it used a very simple, deterministic, rules-based routing system for internal messages. So if an email came from a team member, boom, it just instantly fired off a Slack DM. No AI required, super fast, and super cheap. But on the other hand, it utilized a dynamic conversational AI assistant that could actually read external emails, summarize all the noise, and prepare drafted replies. It's all about using the exact right tool for the right job. All right, Section 3, Sub-Workflows for Stylized AI. Now, the absolutely crucial point in making sure those AI drafts actually sounded like the client and didn't just read like some generic robotic template was a very specific technical design choice, and that is the sub-workflow. By isolating the drafting agent into its own dedicated process, the system saved a ton of money on token costs, drastically reduced the chance of AI hallucinations, and perhaps most importantly, it prevented the main routing agent from having to process a massive style guide on every single run. Think of the parent workflow as just a manager. It simply hands off the writing task to a specialized expert only when an email actually needs to be written. And to make sure that sub-workflow expert writes perfectly, you absolutely need a rigorous prompt. Instead of lazily dumping hundreds of past emails into a vector database and just kind of hoping the AI figures it out, an optimized system prompt was carefully engineered. By using these exact parameters, defining the core identity, specifying the medium, the default stance, and strict structural rules like how to actually sign off, the AI was able to perfectly mimic the client's unique phrasing and structure every single time. Which brings us to Section 4, Identifying Business Bottlenecks. Let's pivot to the strategy side for a minute, because technology alone isn't what secured that premium price tag. The real shift in mindset that commands premium pricing is moving from being a pharmacist to being a doctor. See, a pharmacist simply takes an order, right? They build whatever shiny workflow a client blindly asks for without ever questioning it. A doctor, however, operates as a true AI consultant. They diagnose the underlying business problem before ever prescribing a solution. They become an actual thought partner. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy here. Mastering the software is totally secondary to your ability to map out a business's operations and pinpoint exactly where they are bleeding time or money. Literally anyone can learn to connect software tools together, but recognizing why they should be connected, that is what makes you invaluable. Just take a look at this business systems breakdown. Imagine a client comes to you asking for an AI sales agent to boost their outreach, but upon actually diagnosing their business, you realize 50% of their friction is locked up in internal operations and fulfillment. That is their actual constraint. If you act like the pharmacist and just build that sales agent, pouring more and more demand into a broken system, the entire business will eventually collapse. You absolutely have to solve the operations bottleneck first. And finally, Section 5, selling outcomes, not templates. This brings us directly to why a simple 3-hour build can confidently command such a premium price tag. The client frankly didn't care about the 3 hours spent dragging nodes on a canvas. They happily paid for a flexible, consistent system that drastically reduced their daily mental fatigue. By eliminating all that context switching, they freed up hours of high-leverage executive time, delivering an eventual 10 times return on their initial investment. You are selling the ROI, my friends, not your time. Furthermore, that initial 3-hour build, that's really just a proof of concept. The true value of an AI consultant is actively managing the entire project lifecycle. After the prototype, you move into live environment testing. You're actively monitoring the workflow, fixing those inevitable bugs and edge cases, and making long-term optimizations as the business scales. You aren't just handing off a downloaded file, you are maintaining a living, breathing business system. So, if you want to replicate this success, strictly follow this 3-step rapid prototyping methodology. 1. Find the real, costly problem. 2. Choose a flexible tool that integrates well. And 3, most importantly, prototype fast. Don't overthink it. Get a working model into the client's hands immediately to gather real-world feedback. This process anchors your value entirely in tangible, measurable business outcomes. So, I leave you with this final thought to analyze your own workflows. What is the most expensive operational bottleneck draining focus in your business right now? Find that, and you found your first high-value AI project. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.